Welcome to today's lecture. We're going to take a closer look at how our neuromuscular system functions and the critical processes involved in muscle activation and control. Let's break this down in a way that makes sense for anyone studying or working in exercise science or physiology. So, what happens when we want to move a muscle? Everything starts with the motor neuron, which sends signals from the spinal cord to the muscle fibers. Think of this as a direct communication line where the motor neuron delivers the message telling the muscle what to do. One motor neuron doesn't just control one fiber, though. It can branch out to connect to many different muscle fibers depending on the muscle's role and how much force it needs to generate. For example, in muscles that need really fine control, like those controlling eye movements, each motor neuron might connect to just one or a few muscle fibers. This lets you make tiny, precise adjustments, which is important when your eyes follow an object. But for something like your quadriceps, which control leg movement, a single motor neuron might connect to hundreds of muscle fibers. This larger connection allows for bigger, less precise movements like standing up or kicking a ball. Now you might be wondering, how exactly does this signal from the motor neuron make the muscle contract? The answer lies in something called the neuromuscular junction. When a motor neuron sends out a signal, it doesn't directly cause the muscle to contract. Instead, it releases a chemical messenger called acetylcholine. This acetylcholine travels across the tiny gap between the nerve and the muscle fiber and binds to receptors on the muscle's membrane, which we call the sarcolemma. When enough acetylcholine is released, it excites the muscle fiber and triggers a process that leads to contraction. But here's something important. Every muscle fiber connected to that motor neuron contracts all at once. There's no partial contraction of just a few fibers. It's all or nothing. This is known as the all or none principle. Once that action potential or signal is strong enough, all the fibers within that motor unit will contract fully. If the signal isn't strong enough, nothing happens. There's no middle ground. Now, each time a motor neuron sends out a signal, the muscle contracts briefly in what we call a twitch. During a twitch, calcium ions are released within the muscle fiber, allowing two key proteins, actin and myosin, to interact. This interaction generates force. But after this initial release of calcium, the muscle relaxes as the calcium is taken back up. However, if a second signal comes in before the muscle fully relaxes, we get something called a twitch summation. The forces of the two twitches add up. If the signals come quickly enough, the twitches begin to fuse together, resulting in tetanus, which is when the muscle reaches its maximum force output. Moving on, muscles aren't all the same. There are different types of muscle fibers, each with specific characteristics. These fibers are usually categorized as either type 1 fibers or type 2 fibers. Type 1 fibers, also called slow twitch fibers, are excellent for endurance activities. They're efficient, resistant to fatigue, and primarily rely on aerobic metabolism, which means they use oxygen to generate energy. These fibers are perfect for activities like long distance running or cycling, where you need sustained effort over time. On the other hand, type 2 fibers or fast twitch fibers are built for quick, powerful bursts of movement. These fibers are less efficient and tire out more quickly, but they can generate force rapidly. They rely more on anaerobic metabolism, meaning they don't need oxygen as much as type 1 fibers do. Instead, they generate energy quickly from stored sugars, which is why they excel in activities like sprinting or weightlifting, where speed and power are key. There are even subtypes within type 2 fibers, such as type 2A, which has a bit more endurance than type 2X, but still offers fast, powerful contractions. To give you an example of how this all ties together, think about postural muscles like the soleus in your calf. This muscle is used constantly to help you stand, balance, and walk, so it contains mostly type 1 fibers. These fibers allow you to stay on your feet for hours without tiring. In contrast, the quadriceps, which are responsible for more explosive movements like jumping or sprinting, contain a mix of both type 1 and type 2 fibers. This allows them to handle both endurance tasks like jogging and high power tasks like sprinting. Let's touch on motor unit recruitment. Your body has the ability to vary how much force a muscle generates based on the task at hand. If you're doing something simple like lifting a light object, only a few motor units with slow twitch fibers might be activated, but if you're lifting something heavy or sprinting, your body recruits more motor units and fast twitch fibers come into play. The more force you need, the more motor units your body recruits. For really high power movements like lifting a max weight or sprinting at full speed, almost all available motor units will be recruited, especially those fast twitch fibers. Finally, let's talk about proprioception. Your muscles, tendons, and joints are full of specialized receptors called proprioceptors. These give your brain constant feedback about the position of your body and the forces acting on it. Without consciously thinking about it, proprioceptors allow you to balance, adjust your posture, and move smoothly. Two key proprioceptors are muscle spindles and Golgi tendon organs. Muscle spindles detect changes in muscle length and help regulate contraction, while Golgi tendon organs sense tension in the muscle and help prevent injury by inhibiting the muscle from overcontracting under too much load. To sum up, understanding the neuromuscular system and how different muscle fibers are recruited during exercise is key to designing effective training programs. By incorporating exercises that use both heavy loads and explosive movements, you can train your body to recruit more motor units and increase overall force production. Remember, the more you understand how your body works, the more you can optimize your performance. Thanks for tuning in today. We've covered a lot from how motor neurons activate muscle fibers to the different types of muscle fibers and their roles in exercise. And in our next lecture, we'll dive into more details on how to improve force production and strength through training.